Hi, I'm Ken Howard, and welcome to the Gay Therapy LA podcast. Today, I want to talk about gay men and life lessons we can learn from actors. As a gay men's specialist, psychotherapist, and coach in Los Angeles, or more specifically, West Hollywood, California, the influence of television and film entertainment industry is everywhere. Not all, but a good percentage of my clients locally are somehow affiliated with the Hollywood entertainment industry. It permeates the air, kind of like LA's wonderful night blooming jasmine. For this time of year, it's now February, it's Oscar season, with the Academy Awards telecast only a few weeks away, and that's the afternoon and evening when you see the black stretch limousines all over the streets of LA between the stars and the crew and the executives all going towards the awards venue or back out to the various after parties to see and be seen. It's a lot of marketing for films, actors, directors, designers, studios, and of course, a very important historical tradition in the film industry. We might watch the Oscars telecast and root or even bet on our favorite actors to win or even admire or diss what they're wearing on the red carpet as they arrive. It's a larger-than-life world of glamour and imagination that celebrates the art and commerce of film. They say that actors are America's royalty. They are exalted for their talent, beauty, and skills to bring characters from the written page to life on the movie or television screen. In the Man and Superman myth, they are the Superman. They are visible and familiar and represent publicly ideas that are often private, such as when an actor brings visibility and awareness to a certain disease or circumstance. They serve as an example for us if they've been through it, and they kind of validate our experience if they've been through it themselves, everything from cancer to stroke to, of course, HIV/AIDS, and, of course, relationship troubles. So acting is one of those professions that's been traditionally more friendly to gay men, especially historically on the Broadway stage, but also in film and television, if perhaps historically most often closeted. I try to derive inspiration and a certain kind of motivational energy from many different kinds of sources, and to try to apply them to myself in particular, but also to gay men in general. I think we all can do that. And I was thinking, what does acting and actors mean for gay men? Not just in LA or West Hollywood, but in general. What can we learn from actors that might be good tips to consider living by? They might be inspiring us without really being aware of it. Well, an acting teacher might preach about bringing truth and authenticity to a performance to make it seem natural and realistic and compelling, emotionally moving us. They are portraying a character. They are not the character they play. They are, for creative purposes, creating a false self. And gay men know all about the false self. Most of us have had to cultivate quite a skilled false self during our formative years, knowing that we had to generally accommodate a heterosexist or homophobic society, being perceived as either heterosexual or neutral when we're young and possibly closeted. That's the false self that we present to the world. Even when we perhaps didn't realize we were gay when we were young, most of us knew that there was something different about us from most of our peers as boys. And we somehow knew that that something needed to be kept hidden from parents and teachers and peers. We knew that much. Gay men, so to speak, are the original actors, but we do it full-time in life unless and until we reach the age, if we ever do, of coming out. Then we can live our truth authentically, which can feel like an enormous burden has been lifted off our shoulders. This is not unlike an actor who drops the character he's playing once a director yells "cut" on a movie set, or an actor makes his exit off a stage. When the character is not seen and speaking and reacting, the actor portraying that character emerges. Their voice, their posture, their demeanor, their speech, their whole countenance might change. and that's different from the character they're playing. Gay men can be like this. We might play the character of either being quiet in some situations, like at work, or maybe even butchered up in some situations. Fortunately, this idea of being closeted or cultivating the false self for a sense of survival or some kind of social advantage, like competing with straight men at work, has been diminished in recent years, with more kids and teens and certainly adults being out from a younger age as social acceptance of gay men has made progress, if perhaps still not enough to keep gay men safe in every aspect of society everywhere. Gay men used to take more heat than lesbians overall, but I'd say lately the heat that's been taken off gay men to some degree, trans people have come under alarmingly more oppression as the proposed or even enacted and signed political legislation of 2022 and 2023 has shown in so many states about drag queen story hour bans from these shrill, ignorant, hatefully bigoted parents, or use of public restrooms or locker rooms according to one's gender identity. These kinds of scare tactic laws and rhetoric easily fuel the violence against and even murder of trans people, especially trans women, worldwide. But gay men can still face oppression. The Don't Say Gay laws in Florida, and soon to be aggressively replicated elsewhere because they've been successful and legally enacted in Florida, have been some of the newest and most alarming recent development. They're used for political leveraging of far-right conservative voters from people like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's quite possibly the leading Republican candidate in 2024 for president, just behind the virulently anti-LGBT Trump, who appointed probably the most specifically vocal homophobic cabinet in history, as well as anti-LGBT Supreme Court justices. So the need for the false self certainly persists as an actual or social and professional role for survival of many gay men falling under these oppressive circumstances. Let's look for a moment at the existential. Gay men can also learn from actors in an existential way. Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players." Just like actors embody characters that a writer has created from imagination, we develop characters based on genetics, body composition, ethnicity, culture, nationality, family of origin, historical age we live in, skills, talents, interests, personal values, and expression of our personal style. The gay iconic roles of the gym bunny, the leather daddy, the twink, at least temporarily, you kind of age out of that one, the bear, the drag queen, the old queen, the DILF, are all part of these roles that we cultivate voluntarily through our interests and hobbies and clothing and hairstyles and comfort of our presentation, not unlike an actor in a costume. So gay men as actors are also, in a sense, producers, responsible for creating the world of the play or movie or TV show. Think of the costumes we wear to work, or to the gym, or to the club, or to the beach, or to brunch. All of those places, and of course the less stereotypical ones, I realize, are our sets where the action takes place. Our belongings are our props, whether it's our car or home decor or kitchen appliances, sports equipment, work equipment, mostly laptops it seems lately, and all that we touch, like our smartphones, and we use throughout a day or a week. Gay men's communication is really just knowing our lines. Like actors, what we do say to move our objective and fulfill our motivations, evoke reactions, or negotiate our circumstances. That's knowing your lines. What we say can evoke the reactions or concessions that we want from others. Let's talk about sex. Gay men can learn a whole lot from actors about sex. Since we usually don't learn about sex from direct live observation when we're growing up, we often learn about sex and observe how it's done from porn. So while certified sex therapists like myself like to remind everyone porn is entertainment, not education. There are some things we can learn from porn actors. All the animal kingdom, including man, can learn from observation of others, even though our natural instincts would generally take over, left to our own devices, without porn demonstrating for us. Certainly, gay men's roles as a top or a bottom are roles that we play, not unlike actors. In my individual therapy or couples therapy, sex therapy, or individual relationship coaching services, I sometimes educate guys on how they can overcome sexual anxieties or fears or ambitions or shame or complications to have a better sex life. A term I help guys with a lot is the whole thing about performance anxiety, which might lead to certain kinds of erectile dysfunction or delayed ejaculation or other sex therapy troubleshooting topics. Notice how performance anxiety, we use that word performance, that's what an actor does. Previous articles or podcast episodes that I've written or recorded have discussed overcoming fears of being a top or fears of being a bottom in sex. We can be somewhat apart from our regular lives in sex, playing a specifically erotic role, as most people do in sex. Sex is not really an intellectual thing. It's really a part of our very physical, even animalistic selves, even though it can include sophisticated feelings like love and attachment and profound communication. For gay men, adopting the mindset of the top in sex can evoke our more dominant, assertive, leadership controlling, even overpowering selves in the context of consent and the 6 principles of sexual health. There's an earlier episode on the 6 principles of sexual health by Michael Vigorito and Doug Braun-Harvey in a previous episode in their book, Treating Out of Control Sexual Behavior. Adopting the mindset of the bottom is similar, but in a different way, just a contrasting way, evoking our more passive, submissive, acquiescent selves in a dynamic power play of erotic energy, where the fun is in the sharing and the complementary contrast of these energies toward a playful, erotically satisfying purpose. If we're versatile or we're sides, guys who are not tops or bottoms, who don't like anal sex but are just side, everything else, oral stuff, etc., different aspects of our sexual character might be evoked, but we still might find ourselves saying or doing things that feel like we're playing a role, but not in a seriously false or artificial bad way, but in a creative, erotic way. Sometimes being dominant in sex can be like what actors call the special fun of playing a villain role. It can be a safe, sanctioned, consensual way to manage our aggressive feelings that are a part of all of us. Exploring what Carl Jung, the psychotherapist and theorist, called the shadow of the psyche. Being submissive in sex can be a welcome respite for guys who have stressful jobs where they're constantly supervising, observing, guiding, directing, coaching, and controlling the operations of a business. Giving up their control, sometimes exaggerated through elaborate bondage play, can be like a vacation from always having to be on and responsible for so much going on around them. In some ways, the roles that we take on in sex can be complementary to our everyday lives, like an alter ego or some kind of a balancing respite for who we are normally in life. Let's look at the professional. Certainly, while most of us are not actors in the entertainment business, we refer to our work still as work performance, such as on our annual review. Are we meeting or exceeding the expectations of the role we have in the organization? Politicians are on the national or global stage of political and social operations. We might feel the need to be socially on, such as polite, charming, interactive, energetic, and attentive, as if we were on stage. And sometimes we might enjoy just being home alone and relaxing, not having to be on, but being just kind of off stage in a more relaxed state, in our sweats with our hair not done. Let's look at the interpersonal. All actors have interactions with the other actors or characters in a work, just like people have a series of lifelong interpersonal relationships or shorter relationships in so many different settings and circumstances. For gay men, our interpersonal relationships can be especially important because positive interpersonal relationships can be a buffer for the otherwise social minority stress that we endure as a generally worldwide stigmatized or even oppressed group. We find safety in our friends. The euphemism for gay men being friends of Dorothy, that refers to the colorful characters, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion, who support Dorothy in her journey in The Wizard of Oz, which was originally a book, but more popular on stage, and certainly the classic 1939 film. Just like Dorothy's friends, we find kindred spirits, sometimes our fellow gay men, but sometimes a supportive parent or a favorite teacher or fun aunt, uncle, sibling, boss, coach, mentor, so many. And it is our interpersonal relationships that help us to feel like we're not alone and that there is help for us. Kind of like the It Gets Better campaign to support LGBT youth. There's a saying, there is no drama without conflict. Creative writers know this. Dramatic conflicts in movies or TV shows drive the story, especially in comedy. Think of Dorothy and her ex-husband Stan on The Golden Girls. That mostly love-hate relationship, but the bickering played to funny effect. Or an older example in Dora, the Mother Witch, and Darren on Bewitched. Always kind of in conflict to drive the story and the humor. And for gay men, sometimes we tolerate or even thrive on gay drama in our interpersonal relationships with jealousies and insecurities and criticisms, envy, anxieties, competition. Gay men are still men. Men compete. Put any two men together in a room and they will compete for something, even if it's not for the attentions of a woman, like straight men might do. Many therapists and theorists hypothesize that this negativity in the gay men's community and in our interpersonal relationships is an internalization of the oppression that we take from outside the community. It's like a negative ball that's been thrown into our community from the outside, and we toss it around and toss it at each other instead of tossing the ball back out where it came from, back at them. Tell the story. Biography books, many of them are about actors, tell the story of these interesting lives. But we all have interesting lives, even if no one ever writes a biography of us. Actors tell the story that a writer has imagined, with some kind of meaning or purpose or lesson to be learned. Gay men as actors tell our own story about what it's like to be a gender and sexual minority at our own time in history, in our own worldwide location, which is different from where we were historically, and it's different again from who we will be in the future. A character in the Broadway musical Ragtime, Cole House Walker, sings a song called Make Them Hear You, as his challenge to those who come after him to fight for justice when he's no longer around to do it. That's our job as gay men. We tell the story, but in a way that works for us as our own character in the story. The lyrics include this: go out and tell your story. Let it echo far and wide. Make them hear you. Make them hear you. How justice was our battle and how justice was denied. Make them hear you, make them hear you. And to those who blame us for the way we chose to fight, that sometimes there are battles that are more than black and white, and I could not put down my sword when justice was my right. Make them hear you. That's with lots of credit to Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Charles Flaherty, who were the lyricist and music composer of Ragtime. An excellent musical if you can buy the recording or something or stream it online. So how can you, with the character that you play on this world stage, make them hear you? We get one voice, one chance to make our mark. The best actors can make a cameo, brief appearance in a work and leave an indelible impression. Remember The Wicked Witch of the West and The Wizard of Oz, so powerfully played by character actress Margaret Hamilton, who left an iconic impression on so many for so long, part of our cultural literacy lexicon. You know, that was only 12 minutes of screen time. 12 minutes, and yet look at the influence. Of course, our lives are usually much, much longer, so what kind of indelible impression can each of us make on the story? When we see our favorite actors, there are many things to admire. Their face, their voice, their body, their mannerisms, movement, passions, expression, and ways they inspire us by what they say and do. But it's not a one-way street. Even as non-famous people, our voice and body and mannerisms and movement and passions and expressions can inspire others too. We get one chance. When the curtain comes down, or when the credits roll, the actor's story, at least for now, is over. For gay men in life, it's, well, life. The best acting performances are the most authentic. They move us. One of the most important teachings from acting coaches all over Hollywood or New York is about being the character in truth, authenticity, and motivating desire that informs all of our choices and actions. Let your life be about this. Be you. You don't find yourself in life, you create yourself. And this is important for gay men whose sense of self is so often diminished from the widespread oppressions that we face in countries all over the world. As adults, no matter how oppressed we were as kids or the crap that we face currently, we must be empowered to be ourselves in all settings for all purposes. Be you, as only you can play that character. Go out and tell your story. Make them hear you. If you'd like to be heard from someone who supports you, consider therapy for those in California or coaching nationally and worldwide with me. For more information on those professional services, call or text me 310-339-5778. That's 310-339-5778. Or you can email me, ken@gaytherapyla.com. Remember, gaytherapyla.com is my website. And there's a history of blog articles on there, all different pages about the services that I offer. And if you like the show, as always, please try and leave a review or comments and share, with your friends who you think might get some help from this show or the other episodes. And if you have suggestions for episodes in the future, please let me know. I want to develop episodes, according to what you're the most interested in hearing about. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.